It was the kind of story that's the raw material of nightmares. A father and 3 children die in a kayak accident on Lake Superior. The mother, separated from her family, is the sole survivor. Tonight, new details about why the kayak capsized last August. And experts tell us how the case provides important lessons that can keep this from happening again.
On a late summer day, it's easy to be seduced by the beauty of the Apostle Islands and the seeming calm of Lake Superior. For one family, the seduction would come at a terrible price. In the last week of August, Eric Fryman, Carrie Mays, and their 3 young children arrived on Madeline Island for a long weekend. On August 30th, just after lunch, all 5 left in this 2-seat kayak, with room for a third in the middle. It was the first mistake of several documented in a Wisconsin DNR investigation into the events of that day. Pictures and information the public is seeing for the first time.
One of the biggest concerns with Lake Superior is the water temperature. It fluctuates very little in the summertime, and so it's always cold. And so that's one of the biggest concerns.
Cliff Schmidt is a marine investigator with nearly 40 years' experience. He agreed to review the DNR case file for the Fox 9 investigators.
What struck you about this case?
The first one would be the type of watercraft being used in that water. A sit-on-top kayak is more of a ocean kayak, a warm water kayak, an interior lake, or a very, very near shore kayak. I wouldn't venture out more than 100 to 150 yards from shore on Lake Superior in that kayak.
In a kayak that offered no protection from the elements, Eric Fryman makes another fateful decision for his family: to try to paddle to the lighthouses on Michigan Island. From Madeline Island on a clear day, it looks tantalizingly close, but it's nearly 4 miles away. All 5 were wearing life vests and had paddles, but were dressed in light clothes with just a few supplies: a couple packs of cigarettes, a lighter, flashlight, and cell phone. The weight of all 5 in the 13.5-foot kayak was 442 pounds, just under its 500-pound capacity. The problem was the way that weight was distributed. The parents in the 2 seats, 9-year-old Kira in the middle, holding her 3-year-old brother Jansen in her lap, and the 5-year-old Annalise near the bow. A local fisherman in the area recalls saying, "Look at that," when he saw the family crowded in their small kayak. The waves were 2 to 3 feet, he said, the current running north extremely hard.
You change the attitude or the position of the kayak, causing it to be bowed down, which then allows for more water to come over the kayak, which could cause you to think that the kayak was sinking.
The account of what happens next comes from the mother, Carrie Mays. Sometime before 4 o'clock, the weather turns, the water becomes rocky, and the kayak begins to take on water. The kayak was self-draining, with holes in the bottom that kept it afloat. But suddenly they're hit by a wave. Kira, the 9-year-old, panics and jumps out of the kayak, causing it to flip over. And suddenly, everyone's in the water. The water temperature is 65 degrees. Kira is already swimming towards Michigan Island as her father and mother try to flip the kayak, but it's too heavy. So they try placing the other 2 children on top of the kayak, but they keep slipping off. Eric decides to swim towards Michigan Island with 5-year-old Annalise on his back and 3-year-old Jansen in his arms. Yet another fateful decision.
The best thing would have been is just to stay with the kayak. Stay with any boat that's overturned. It's buoyant. It's a big target for rescuers to see, especially a lime green kayak.
Only Carrie, the mother, stays with the kayak, calling the Coast Guard and 911, but the calls keep dropping. She'll text her sister and brother. 911, Michigan Island, kayak tipped. But the messages won't go through until nearly 4 hours later. The Coast Guard will text back: "This is search and rescue. You've been reported overdue, missing." The Coast Guard initially pings the 911 calls to Madeline Island, but then they realize the calls are coming from Lake Superior. By 6 o'clock, a search is launched. A U.S. geological research vessel, the Kiyi, sees a light in the distance and finds Carrie with the kayak. It's 10 o'clock and she's been in the water 6 hours. Exhausted and hysterical, she screams, "My babies, where are my babies?" Carrie will text her brother, "Coast Guard found me a half hour ago. Everyone is still missing." He replies, "You need to be strong for them. We are praying for you." Just after midnight, the Coast Guard recovers the bodies of Eric Fryman and the 2 children from the water. The father died from hypothermia. The children drowned. Park rangers found 9-year-old Kira the next morning on the shore of Michigan Island. She died from hypothermia. So many decisions were made on that summer day, from the kind of kayak to the ambition of a family adventure.
I mean, it's really a series of errors, isn't it, that led to this tragedy?
There's always, I always say to people that there's 3 things that precipitate an incident. You can get by with doing 1, maybe 2, but when you do that 3rd, incidents like this, tragedies happen.
And that is what the Wisconsin DNR investigation concluded, a tragic accident. The contributing factors: overloading of the kayak, operator inexperience, and passenger behavior. The Ashland County Sheriff tells me their separate investigation should wrap up shortly, and he expects very similar conclusions. For the Fox 9 investigators, I'm Tom Lydon.